Welcome to the Middle East Teaching and Learning Conference. My name is Abigail Alexis Olubuyide, and I will be speaking to you today about servant leadership. Before I get into that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Originally, I am from London, England, but I currently live and work in the UAE with my husband and two children. My educational career started as a child when my summer holidays were shortened as I followed my mother into her school to prepare her classroom for the new academic year. I cut, I pasted, I moved, I cleaned, I prepared. Little was I to know that there was a long road ahead of me within the field. Academically, I have a BSc in psychology, PGCE in primary education, MA in educational leadership and management, and a number of certifications that range from a NPQH to neuro-linguistic programming and counseling studies. I have held a number of positions within the sector, from being a teacher's assistant before I graduated with my bachelor's to classroom teaching, middle leadership, and now senior leadership. For the last 3 years, I have had the privilege of being the head teacher of a primary school that enrolls over 1,500 students within a world class international educational company. This is a school that I have been at for all of the 7 years in which I have been in the Emirates. With so many opportunities within the UAE, so many schools, and so many options, why the same school for so long? I do hope to answer that question throughout the course of my talk. And I say talk with every intent and purpose because I do not have a slide deck. I do not have a pretty picture to show you. I just have me, my thoughts, my experiences, and my observations. I will start with why there is a need for more servant leaders. Having just come out, and some may disagree that we are out, but having just navigated a global pandemic, it has really shone a light on the pivotal role that we as leaders play in our organizations. Granted, we all have a responsibility to manage our own well being, our own workload, and our own professional experience. But staff members want to know that the leaders for which they work also prioritize their well-being, are proactive in managing and monitoring the workload of their staff, and are actively working to create a culture within the organization that allows the best professional experiences to thrive. This is where servant leadership comes in. I have sat under many leaders, observed, reflected, and grew from my experiences. Some leaders were amazing and some not so amazing, but I learned from all of them. I learned what to do, I learned what not to do, and then I learned what to do when I did not know what to do. My key takeaway to date is that true leadership is not to be served, but to serve. The aim is not to be the last man standing, but to make sure that every man is well equipped to be able to stand despite it all. Leadership is not a one man band. And it certainly is not a one man football team like little Johnny seems to think at my son's little league. It is the acknowledgement that we are only as strong as our weakest team members. It is the understanding that at times we lead from the front. On occasions, we stand back for others to take lead. Sometimes we are beneath the team, giving stability and grounding. And at other times, we are above them, sheltering them from the storm. As a servant is responsive to the needs of their masters, we too, as servant leaders, must remain responsive to the needs of those we lead. Will turbulent times come? Sure. Will well designed plans have fundamental flaws? It will happen. Will colleagues and students fall short of our expectations? Most certainly. But as a leader, how we respond, how we act, and what our face says determines it all. I therefore aim this talk at leaders. But before you disqualify yourself with, well, I'm not a leader, self chatter, I do have a question. Really? Who amongst us is not a leader? Who is not leading another in some way, shape, or form, whether personally or professionally, children or adults, ourselves? Now, that is food for thought and another talk entirely. It is imperative that we all get better at leading in general. If we can adopt some of the best leadership principles and shift our mentality towards leadership, we can create a culture within our classroom, within our departments, and within our schools that is transformative on a mental, emotional, and physical level. Adopting a servant leadership approach can be a game changer for your leadership experience. So, how do you do that? We will now look at how to become a servant leader. If you look into the definition of servant leadership, it is described as a philosophy that is built on the belief that the most effective leaders strive to serve others rather than accumulate power or control for themselves. Oxymoronically, in not seeking power or control, you will find that you are given it freely by the people you are trying to help. I will give you an acrostic outlining the 7 key steps I have found central to becoming a true servant leader in my experience. S. S is for start with yourself. Self development is an ongoing process and work that each leader must be committed to. It has been said that in life there are two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. To become a servant leader, you have to be committed to your own self development and growth. Areas of development look different for different people. John may need to learn to extend to himself the same grace that he extends to others. Mariam may need to learn to discipline her thoughts and emotions by not taking everything to heart and maintaining that delicate balance of having an iron hand within a velvet glove. Ahmed may need to control his communication methods, thinking more broadly about how his speech is perceived and received by others. Your strengths and weaknesses can only be truly identified through honest reflection and feedback. 360-degree feedback, or Johari's Windows framework, is a good start in helping you increase your self awareness and understanding of others. E. E is for explaining your expectations. I have learned over the years that it is imperative that communication is clear. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Where you need to expand, make sure you do, even if it takes you a little longer to write an email or have a conversation. Invest that time. The worst feeling for your team members is to read something you have written or hear something you have said and then think to themselves, so what do I do now? When expectations are clear and understood by all, then it makes it clear who has a capability issue so that support can be further tailored. As a servant leader, the goal is not to catch people out. It is to be able to give precise and personalized support where needed. But true needs can only be identified once expectations are understood and shared by all. R. R is for remaining resolved. There is something to be said for leaders that can swim like swans so graciously above the waters, yet be kicking for dear life beneath. Servant leadership is a calm resolve that the job will get done. Servant leadership is not the chopping and changing of methodology once the heat is on. It is being an anchor to your team, a backbone to your organization, and a strength to everyone that seeks it. You will doubt at times. You will want to give up. But during those tumultuous times is when the servant leader remains resolved in the shared goals and the ability of the team to achieve them. V. V is for being valiantly versatile. I mentioned the need to be valiant with your versatility because some will label you as fake as you navigate a number of contexts, personalities, and situations in a variety of ways. But a leader is called to respond to many different events. And the more versatile you are in your approach, your ideas, your responses, the more likely you are to implement solutions that work and stick. More orthodox colleagues will want to shun your innovative approaches, but the valiant servant leader is able to do what is needed when it is needed for the good of the team, despite the critics. A. A is for being apologetically authentic. You have heard the saying that opinions are like noses and everybody has one. Well, it is true. People will want to tell you how to behave, how to look, how to respond, and a long list of what to do. But the servant leader that is committed to self development cannot lose by being apologetically authentic. By modeling being your authentic self, you give others the permission to show up and be themselves and not a made up, media designed fantasy of who and what they think they should be. An organization of authentic individuals is an organization full of self love, creativity, innovation, acceptance, and transparency. Here, everybody runs in their own lane, and the only competition people face is against themselves. N. N is for being notoriously nice. While doing my NPQH, a senior leader said to me, Abigail, you can't go wrong when people have two things to say about you. She's nice and she knows her stuff. This dropped in my heart like an anchor on a ship and has stayed with me ever since. It is nice to be important, but it is more important to be nice. A servant leader is described as nice. They wear a smile on their face. They have manners, not forgetting their please and thank yous. They greet everyone, regardless of their designation, and are always willing to do any job that they may delegate to others. A servant leader knows that despite the prestige associated with leadership, that the job is a hands-on, full-on, lead by example gig, which often means you are first to come and last to go, slow to get the praise, but quick to take responsibility. T. T is for totally transformative. I often remark that anyone that works alongside me should transform for the better. This is not an arrogant statement, but a passionate one, made out of my commitment that I have made to the development of not only myself, but those around me. As servant leaders, our job is to make sure that the people we lead have everything they need to succeed. We need to make sure that people are recognized as individuals that collectively form a team. It is our responsibility to ensure that their needs are catered to, that their ideas are heard, and that personalized support is given. The individuals we lead should be on a journey of transformation by just being within and under your leadership. Some will need to be stretched and challenged, while others will need to be encouraged and guided. Despite their needs, ensure that your expectations remain high and that you simply tailor their support and their access to resources. So there we are, my 7 key steps to becoming an effective and life-changing servant leader. Number 1, start with yourself. Number 2, explain your expectations. Number 3, remain resolved. Number 4, Be valiantly versatile. Number 5, be apologetically authentic. Number 6, be notoriously nice. Number 7, be totally transformative. When all these pieces come together, you have a leader that is steadfast within themselves and puts people at the center of their leadership. And when people are at the center of your focus, achieving your shared vision and goals will be at the center of their focus, creating a win-win solution. I am Abigail Alexis Olubuyide, and it was lovely speaking with you today at the Teach Middle East Teaching and Learning Conference. You can follow me on LinkedIn at Abigail Alexis Olubuyide. If you have any questions, you can ask them via the Q&A section on the platform, and I will respond to you there. Thank you.